Nice to see you as well. This is so fun.
I know, it's really fun. It's fun to be able to have conversations with people that I think are doing amazing things in the world. And so just to give people who are watching right now an idea for why we're here and what we're going to talk about, I have a program called Confidently Speaking where I call it an improv workout for speakers. We meet every week, and the two of us met through the program or through the Entreprenistas. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. That's
Yes.
the first
And
round.
so if people don't know what the Entreprenistas is, it's a network of amazing women doing amazing things and building businesses and all of the things. So it's definitely worth checking out. And I'm delighted that you're now a part of Confidently Speaking as well. And so what I would love is for you to just tell everyone who's watching right now, what it is that lights you up, what you're passionate about, what you do with your days.
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, what lights me up is my work. I know that sounds corny, but uh,
No.
I do really love every time that I get out of a session with people, and I'll go into a little bit about what I do, but whenever I go into session, it's like something supernatural takes over, and when I'm done, I just feel like 10 times more energized. So,
Mm.
so I really love the work that I do, and I also love, I have a newfound passion for dancing, which I had no idea that I had because I am not at all a trained dancer in whatever way. Um, but recently, because I've kind of gone down a bit of a spiritual path, which we'll get into, but I've opened myself up to a lot of my different intuitive senses, and now I'm just able to really allow for a new form of expression through dance to just come through me. So
Oh,
it's not something that I like try to create the actual motions, but it just flows. It starts to come through, and I'm really, really surprised by what happens.
oh,
So
I love that.
yeah, it's something I hope to disclose more to the public. It's more something I've been doing privately and for fun, but I hope that that is, the next stage of my evolution is also demonstrating that to other people that they can do the same as well. And you don't have to be double jointed or whatever, to do it. Have some kind of,
Oh, I love that so much. So can I ask a couple questions about the dance piece?
yeah.
So tell me first of all, what inspired you to start taking dance is the first part of the question. And then
Mhm.
what was it, do you feel about, was it a form of dance? Or like, is it a jazz? Are you taking jazz? Are you taking hip hop or tap? Or is there a form of dance that inspired you to do it more? Can you talk a little bit about that piece?
Yeah. So I actually didn't go from the route of seeking out dance at all.
Uh-huh.
I started out with a practice called Kundalini activation process.
Uh-huh.
And so I started that, and it, awakened quite a lot of energy within me. And over time, as I was doing that practice more, it turned into, there can be all kinds of movements that come through. And for
Mhm.
me, it started to become a dance. And I actually heard that the origin of Kundalini activation process is something called inner dance, which
Mhm.
I found out later on. But apparently, there's all these other protocols also that can facilitate that. So really, the type of dance I'm doing is actually trance dance.
Oh, cool. I love
So
it.
it's not, anything conventional at all, but it's a form that has come through pretty spontaneously, and I did. It's a gift because it's not something I had ever imagined I would be doing. So
Oh, I love that so much.
it's
Well, I love the non like traditional or non-conventional forms, if you will. So that's very cool, and I can't wait to hear more about that. And I would love for you to tell Tell me a little bit more about the work that you do, because you find joy in it. You get a lot of energy and activation, high vibration, it sounds like, from it. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. And I wanted to mention that I do love coming to your group as well. And to me, it doesn't feel like it's, I have to come to professionally advance myself. It is that, but it's so much lighter and so much more fun.
Mhm.
The way that you shape it has been like every time it's been so much laughter, and I think um, that is truly, any type of extracurricular activities that you can do that can bring in this kind of lightness and fun to it, as if it's not really something you're like really like, oh, I have to really focus on my speaking and this and that. It's just let's bring out the best in you and see what other people can do, and not be afraid to be silly. So I really appreciate that, and I have to say
Mm.
one of the joys that's come in recently for me as well. So
Thank
just
you for saying that.
but yeah, so where do I even begin in my journey? Um, where would be like an appropriate start? I guess I can just explain a little bit about what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm a holistic business mentor. I don't love to have like specific labels around what I do, but it's a very mix of energy healing, subconscious work, leadership coaching, along with business strategy.
Mhm.
And it really just brings together all the multidimensionality of me and the different wisdom that I have accumulated over time, both working in conventional roles and tech companies and marketing and business development, along with having studied a whole bunch of different modalities, including theta healing, alchemy, Kabbalah, many others. And I'm still seeking, still learning. And so I weave all of these practices together to help people open up to their intuitive side, to use the intuitive side of the brain in addition to the logical side. That's kind of what we're missing as a society. And when we do that, we have more of a connection to ourselves, our authentic selves, and tying that into our topic today. The more we can uh, have open up the different senses within us,
Mhm.
the more that our real, true expression comes through. And that's kind of like also the improv work that you're doing too. It's when you are really, really aligned with yourself, with divinity, whatever that means to you, God, creator, source energy, then everything is sort of coming through you. Like your voice is just a channel of information, and there's nothing you necessarily need to do to prepare to communicate in any one situation. You just know that you can approach it in a more sort of graceful way once you really open yourself up to that intuitive side, and also opening up the different energy centers that we have in the body as well. So I think one thing we don't realize is it's not just, okay, I'm going to meditate on my throat. I'm going to think about expressing my truth. All of those things are really good, but what we don't realize is that there's other energy centers that are affecting our voice as well. And sometimes we block those because of past traumas. Um, it could be, anything from judgment from others to fears to maybe even, sexual traumas. And those can live in different places in our body and can affect how we go about speaking.
Mm. Oh,
And
yeah.
whether or not we allow ourselves to speak honestly with people. And I think most of the time, we put on a kind of mask, or we try to say what we think others are going to receive. And so there's a lot of complexity around that, and it can result in miscommunication. It can result in also, your this challenge between, or dichotomy between, your inner voice and then what you actually say. So that can result in issues within the body as well. So there's many layers to this, and I'm still on my journey, but I definitely uncovered quite a lot for myself with my voice. And it's a detective work. It's an exciting it's an exciting journey to uncover some of these things about yourself.
Oh
But
my goodness. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I would imagine it's ongoing work. It's not it's
Mhm.
and I would imagine, just from my own personal experience, I've been really I've I feel very grateful that I've been in the performing arts, but that still doesn't mean I don't have blocks. And I totally agree with you that our body, however you want to vocalize that, we have these blocks that are keeping us from showing and being our full
Mhm.
embodied selves, using our voices, like being clear about what our personal integrated points of views are, being able to like really access things from the heart center rather than just from the mind. And I had a really, which I love that we're talking about using the voice, because that can also mean many different things to people as well.
Yes.
But I realized that I I have had I'm so shy about singing. I'm so
Mhm.
shy and so closed off about using my singing voice. Now,
Mhm.
my speaking voice, I can speak. I've
Mhm.
gotten better at it, especially in the age of social media. So there are positive things about getting on platforms like this, speaking in audio rooms, speaking on TikTok, speaking on Instagram, wherever it is that you're showing up, you're going to help exercise that voice and articulate your point of view. But then there's another side to that for me that I've experienced, which is holy moly, I am holding back so much because of the fear of singing. And I realized not
Mhm.
too long ago that if I started taking singing lessons and exploring my voice more, that there's still so much power within this body of mine and within my heart that I can release that I haven't yet. Like, and
Mhm.
I think it kept me from being a really great actor when I was acting more too,
That's
which
so
I think is fascinating.
so interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious. Like, what do you feel like singing does for you, other than the pure joy of it, or is it something more that you feel like comes through for you, or is it when you sing, does that give you more creativity in other ways?
I feel that singing for me is one of the most vulnerable things I could possibly do. And so it becomes very emotional. So there's a lot of things that I can feel emotionally that I hold back on. And I
Mm.
know that if I sing, I'm going to have to show it.
Oh, show the
I'm
emotion.
going to have to show the emotion. And sometimes that feels too scary. So I'm like, just not going to sing, or I'm going to joke about it, or I'm going to speak sing it because that feels safer, right? So it's really fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just goes to show maybe how connected you are to music,
Mhm.
because I think not everyone feels it to the degree that you do, right? So there's some gift to that as well. It's just the fact that there's something higher for you with that comes with that too.
I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
so yeah, that's beautiful. Well,
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm really curious, Michelle, how did you get into the work that you're doing? So you came from this very practical, I'm going to say practical background, right? Like this very traditional business background, and then you found how to weave in finding your voice, finding who you are in this world as a business owner in this more authentic way, through a spiritual way, if you will. How did you combine those two things? What was that story? Was there a defining moment for you?
There were multiple defining moments, but I would say it came from feeling very misplaced in the environments that I was in. And it started, I moved from place to place thinking I would find my home in the next company I was in, or the next environment, or, oh, maybe it's just that I need to get a slightly different role. Or so I jumped around to explore that. And then it just felt like I was out of place somehow. And I felt a lot of people around me were also misplaced,
Mm,
maybe robotic in the way that they were going about their work, and not necessarily flourishing from the perspective of using their gifts to their best of their abilities.
mhm,
And so I got kind of went into like a deep depression type of thing, which I think is normal for spiritual awakening.
mhm,
So from there, I just started exploring, like, what's the meaning of all of this? Like, why are we here? Existential questions.
yeah,
So I think that that's what kind of led me to spirituality, because that's where people think and ask about those deep, deep questions.
mhm,
And uh, and so that got me on a path that was, a lot of it was by surprise, but I think, if you want to call it, my higher self had agreed to these before I came here. So I went into various different schools of thought, where part of it was not just spirituality, but healing. And I got to experience, a hormonal disbalance that I had kind of rectified through that. And I was like, this is amazing. How is this even possible? And so I just wanted to dig more and more into it, especially as the Western medicine kind of failed me in some ways. And I did want to just do maybe nutrition, or more conventional ways of or approaches to my problems. But then I realized, after working through these different modalities, that, oh, okay, there is something different in the approach that I need to take to my thoughts, my emotions, my ways of being, my actions. And when I started to observe all of that, things started to really shift in my in my reality. So that micromanaging boss left. It was just things just improved every month, every year, in terms of
uh-huh,
um, the people around me, the way I worked. Like, I was able to kind of half the workload, and be praised for it. And it's really because I was able to release so much from my space, that I was able to then make room for more creative visualization, creative energy, to manifest more into my realities. So when you operate from this higher space, then things are easier for you. There's not as much things you have to do. There's more that just comes naturally to you. It's like playing telephone with someone, where you're like, oh, I think of someone, and then they call you. It's this
yeah,
thing with your work, where it's like, oh, I should do this thing. And then suddenly someone does it for you, or someone has the answer for it, or it's something you don't even have to do anymore. So it falls away. And so I just saw these magical things kind of start to happen for me that I didn't experience before. So it was a different way of operating overall. So yeah, the more I learned and the more I worked on myself, I started to want to teach other people how to do the same. And I was doing that on the side. I was working with people on all kinds of things like diseases and soulmates and things like that. So really, it can span any part of your life. Um, but after some time, I realized that I kind of had a very specific niche,
Mm-hmm.
business owners in particular. And I had this very interesting combination of background on understanding what entrepreneurs go through and what makes some businesses successful and others not. And so I, from that point, was like, oh, maybe I can formulate something that maybe doesn't even exist yet, and offer that to people. And of course, I then saw that there were these kind of spiritual business coaches out there, but I went on a journey of training with some of them, and to me, there was something that still kind of fell short. And so I then went on a journey of, okay, how can I piece together all the different tools to really enable people to understand their blueprint, understand how they're designed, and then draw that out into their specific mission and message. So
Mm.
it took me some time to kind of master this and hone this basically into my own process and system now at this point. So yeah, that was
So, I mean, I love it. I love that you discovered through your own exploration that being at this higher level of consciousness is what I'm hearing you say, really you started to see the benefits of that. And then I love that you were able to take what you've learned and help other people, which is just beautiful because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of small business owners who struggle. And I would imagine, I mean, I am one of them, but there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of failures and there's a lot of wins. And I wouldn't do it anything else in the world but what I am doing now. But to have that kind of support and to have what I love is that you're not just giving them business support, which is one thing, which there's so much of that out there, but you're also giving people this opportunity to really work on themselves and their spiritual being and how that connects and interconnects with the daily work that we do. And I personally like I don't think about things in terms of balance. I like to think of things as in terms of integration. Like I am not my business. I don't separate my mom self out and my woman self out, and my wife's self out from my business self. Like they're all the same thing to
yeah.
me. And my spiritual self, all of the selves, right? Uh,
Yes.
so when we talk about using our voices, and what I'm hearing from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like we need to figure out how we can holistically integrate all of these beautiful parts of ourselves in order to be successful on
Absolutely.
on all levels.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like the analogy I like to use is, do you want to go to a specialist doctor who's only looking at one organ, or do you want to understand how, there's different parts of your body that's actually affecting that organ, and that's why it's having trouble, right? So that's really where I like to look at. It's like all aspect of the human being and how things in your relationships can actually affect your business, and sometimes vice versa. And so we're complex beings, so you can't just give a one-sided, like, here's the formula for your business success. We have to look a little under the hood and
Yeah.
dig a little deeper as to what people's issues are, and not stay kind of surface level advice. So that's really where I like to live. So detective work.
I love. So tell me a little bit, Michele. I'm just curious. Tell me a little bit about it. And so also for the people who are listening right now, what is it like to work with you? Like, what does that look like? Like, how long
Mm.
of a commitment is it? Tell me a little bit more. Like, pretend you're selling to me.
Well, my selling process is very individual,
Yeah.
again, per person, because I like to even start to, kind of zoom into their space and understand what's going on with them, and where, what their goals are and where they're going. So I really like to customize based on the person and where they're at. If they belong kind of in my program, or if I can see, okay, they're trying to launch a new product, service, offering, or they're trying to pivot, then I usually suggest them to work with me in this like 4-month Sell Your Brilliance program. Again, I have the term sell in there, but actually underneath that is a spiritual philosophy for selling, which is more about attraction and alignment with your purpose, and getting the right message, to ultimately attract the people that you want, rather than the old paradigm of selling in terms of, the pushy sales, and sort of that type of like outwardly approach,
Yeah.
which I always whenever I get on one of those calls, it's like an immediate shutdown. So
Me too. All right. Or we get them in our LinkedIn feeds,
yeah,
like I get
exactly.
DM'd at least 10 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, typically, if you don't like to be sold that way, why would you want to
Right.
use it on other people? So we're kind of moving away from that, and it's really about, bringing out and teasing out that authentic message and that clarity of who you serve and how. And so if they don't necessarily belong in this kind of system or process, then I typically work with people, around 6 months. I do like longer containers, because there's so much we can explore with an individual, and especially because I'm not just looking at your business. But I've been known to do, instantaneous work with people in just one session too. So yeah, I like to meet people a little bit where they're at as well.
Mhm. Beautiful. I love that. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan too. Let's meet you where you're at and customize something and
Yes,
not
exactly.
force the relationship. Let's be attractive to each other.
Exactly. And yeah, and I've been sold that way too, where they're like, you can only work with me in this way, or that's it. And it's too bad, because if you had just crafted something, I would have probably said yes. So it's,
Mm,
that's also where I like to feel into where someone is financially, or just time wise, or I mean, there's other factors that kind of come into play with it as well. So,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging I find the challenging piece of it is the different personality types. Like,
Mm.
I was on a call not too long ago, and this one was talking about copy and just how to, when you're making like a sales page, for example, like how do you speak? And that's why some sales pages are so dang long. Like I'm
Mm.
the personality type that's like, just give me the button to say that click that I can click and pay for this
Yes,
service.
right.
That's me.
Oh,
Um,
why do
but
I
then
do
there's
people?
but then there's the people that read the whole sales page. And then
Yeah.
there's the people who need the beautiful images. And then there's the people who need to read the testimonials. So
Yeah.
it's really fascinating uh how we choose to communicate with each other,
Mm,
and and
it's-
how we attract clients based off of our own, sometimes, ways we communicate.
yes, that's
I
so
think
true.
is Yeah,
Yes,
I think
if you start going into human design, there's more about that as well, so you can tap into information about that. And for example, for me, I tend to work with people that I have met on one or two or three occasions beforehand. So I kind of have a approach where it's personal. Like by the time they get on an actual call with me, they already kind of know me.
Mhm.
Uh, but that's not everyone. You know, other people, they have a different approach. But yeah, I do think that it's helpful sometimes to, you know, sell in every which way that people like to learn, right? It's like you've got the audio and then the sales page, the people that like to read it, and then you've got the video. And it's like if you can just throw out as many different types of ways people can see you or feel into the way your message, then the better, right? Especially depending on the type of people you're trying to attract as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very much, very much. So, one last question before we wrap this up, because it's already 4 o'clock, which I could talk to you all day, Michele. So we'll just have to do this again sometime, or have like a virtual coffee. Um, so it sounds like you said human design, and I had my human design done, and I think it's
Oh,
fascinating. Is that what you do with your clients? Is the human design?
I integrate a little bit of it, but I actually am stronger in this other modality called gene keys, which is actually
Oh,
based off of human design and astrology and I Ching. So there's even more cool information in there about how you can transform your shadow into your gift and where there's that intersection between prosperity and purpose. So I really like to look at those angles
yeah.
to unlock different aspects of a person. So yeah.
I love it. I could talk about this stuff all day long. I just find it so fascinating. And I find that the more I learn about myself, it's just like I float more. I float through the world more. I'm like, oh, I get that. I understand how I'm in a room. Like I'm more self-aware, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yes,
More
absolutely.
self-aware.
Yeah,
Um,
and the more you can lean into that, yeah, this like you said, it just becomes like a fun game.
It is. It really, really, really is. Well, Michele, this has been really fun having this conversation with you. So
Likewise.
I'm hoping that anyone who's watching right now, please make sure, if you're not already, that you're following Michele on LinkedIn and here on Instagram. And you're also present on YouTube. So just look up Michele, follow her, reach out to her if you have any further questions about the conversation that we had today. And then if you would like to join Confidently Speaking, please do. It's members.confidentlyspeaking.fun, and it's your weekly improv workout for speakers. And like Michele said earlier on, we do have a great time. There's a lot of joy, a lot of laughter, and a very supportive group of people. If you're wanting to just be more confident and build those skills speaking in the world, and there's resources there for you as well to help support you on that journey as well. And Michele, I'm going to put you on the spot here one last time, which
Okay.
is, can you leave us with one baby step?
Mm.
Leave the listeners with one baby step that they can do as they continue on in their journey.
Yeah, I think it's important for every person to have one to find one energy strategy for themselves, whatever that is. For some people, it's meditation. Um, Other people, it may just be, you know, walking, like a moving meditation, or a particular type of, maybe it's Reiki for you, whatever it is, but you're doing it on a weekly, daily basis. Maybe it's a gratitude journal. I don't know, but building in that habit for yourself, it just changes your entire perspective of your day and how you go about it. So that's always a really good place to start.
Thank you. Thanks, Michele. All right, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for being here, and please follow. All right, take